So how should India react? How do we navigate the shifting tides of power and security in an uncertain world? From grand strategy to military technology, from power and conflict to the unseen forces shaping our world, and from battlefields to the halls of power, we decode the past, analyze the present, and anticipate the future of global security. I am Sandeep Unithan, and this is the National Security Agenda. It's happened to many of us. We've been added to the wrong group chat. But in this case, it was no ordinary group chat. It was a chat group comprising some of the most powerful people on the planet, discussing an upcoming military strike on Yemen. Now, a US journalist was mistakenly added to a group of top Trump administration officials, the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of State. They went on to discuss how they were going to attack the Houthi rebels in Yemen. In short, the charge is the White House texted all these war plans to a journalist they had added mistakenly to this White House chat group. Now, the White House has, of course, denied all of this. It's interesting to remember what happened 10 years ago when the Republicans had pilloried then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for using a private email server for official public communications. She didn't use an official State Department server. As often and as always, the lessons for us from all of this. And I'm joined today by Colonel Rajan Pavitran, our go-to person for cybersecurity issues. Colonel Pavitran, welcome to the National Security Agenda.
Thank you, Sandeep. Happy that you brought me back again on your show.
You know, Colonel Pavitran, we've seen several intelligence breaches in the last couple of months, especially from the United States, where kids who've uploaded classified intelligence briefing on chat rooms. But this seems to be the mother of all intelligence breaches. Take us down through what you think actually happened over here, where this journalist got added to this chat group with top Trump officials who are literally giving a blow-by-blow account of what's going to happen in Yemen with the airstrikes and all that. And why is it such a serious security breach?
Okay, so the story as I see it and what has come in the Atlantic, this journalist Jeffrey Goldberg was added to a group by the National Security Advisor. He knew it was and he thought that it was a AI generated group discussing war strategy till the time he realized that what is being discussed is actually happening. So when I went through the article, I realized how it adds on to the rule that security is weakest at the top. You might have a lot of security protocols which is rigorously enforced in organizations and people who deal with classified information. But at the very top is usually it is very difficult to enforce that. And it is also fascinating that people are using signal chat. Although the signal chat is controlled by US interests, the phones are controlled by the operating systems, the phone, etc. I take it as all US. But still, it was for me, it's a deep insight that people added made such a group and discuss such things on a platform like this. Fascinating for me. But the security breach is in the sense there are two things out here. The Trump administration seemingly has pulled the plug on Atlantic very recently and their funding. And they seem to have added this journalist onto a group, although he's a US citizen bound by US laws.
Yes.
And he says that operational information, which is considered very, very sensitive, which would have violated multiple laws, was posted onto that group, which he did not seemingly share. So there you are. But that's US. But I'm more concerned about us, India.
I'm more concerned about that as well, Colonel Pavitra. That's the reason I want to ask you this, that, what are the lessons for India? We don't have our own apps. We don't have our own, hardware, software, none of this. We don't have our own operating system. This is a lacuna that you've pointed out several times in the past. What is the lesson for India when you're looking at leaks like this?
The leak is only one part of the story. In India, the issue is much more serious because at a national level, we are part of a global surveillance paradigm where seemingly we have taken little steps to address this. So that is serious, much more serious, and it makes us act like a digital colony of other nations. primarily the US and China. So this is something which we have to realize, that our entire discourse, our entire, ICT, information communication technologies, are like the nervous system of a modern nation. And if it is owned by other nations, you are a digital colony. All your trade, all your banking secrets, all your financial secrets, and of course your national security secrets will be known to them. They'll be able to map this out, and it's got huge dimensions. Now, you might say that other countries also have the same. Now, the biggest problem here is, okay, other countries are not like India. India is a huge civilizational state.
Right.
And it's a peer adversary for both China and the US in the mid to long term. Today, you might not be, but they will never allow you to rise beyond a certain point, because you will challenge the global order. From that perspective, to point to other states and say, oh, they also have the same thing, so we also should, does not cut ice. And this is something very serious, which I do not know why the nation is not taking adequate steps. We have many thinkers, geopolitical thinkers, etc. But when I look at the whole, gamut, very few people seem to have addressed this squarely on. It's a mystery to me. Maybe you might be able to dig it out why it is so.
Absolutely. Colonel Pavitra, that's really alarming, the fact that, we are much more vulnerable because we have none of these operating systems of our own. We don't have the hardware, we don't have the software, we don't have the OSs that most of these countries do. So in that sense, it is far more worrying for countries like us than, say, the United States, which has this, one leak, once in a blue moon kind of leak, which is worrying. But at the end of the day, as you pointed out, they control everything. They control the app. It is a US citizen there. It's a kind of a closed loop in that sense. But for us, it's far more worrying. Are these issues well aware in India's policy making circles? For instance, are India's top military and government officials on media chat rooms, social media chat rooms, which would enable them to be monitored, by other countries, as you just pointed out?
So I retired about 10 years back, so I would not be able to say that whether they have alternative secret arrangements, but visibly it doesn't seem to be so. So when we initially, immediately after Snowden tried to point it out, it was seen as a contrarian opinion. Okay, that contrarian opinion is today widely accepted. People do not anymore say, oh, you are being a conspiracy theorist. In fact, very senior and credible people have said, this looks like conspiracy theory. Today, no one says that to me anymore. But that big but is there. Why it has not, that urgent action and on a war footing has not happened is concerning. Especially since we also had a standoff with the US, with China, and the US has affected our national security in Bangladesh.
Right.
Again, things are in a flux, but I do not know. It's a mystery to me. Back to you.
Colonel Pavitran, urgent action on a war footing. What must India really do, given that you have Edward Snowden's revelations a decade ago, which told us that we are actually in a global surveillance state where you have powerful countries literally monitoring all our internet traffic. What should India do on priority now, you believe?
So there are two things which India needs to do. One is a legislative effort for protecting India, and second is the innovation effort to produce our own products. Now, both in partial measure has done, but I would not call them cohesive or comprehensive. Atmanirbhar has come out of that realization, to the government's credit, but I would say the policy initiatives to address that is fully not. I wouldn't call it comprehensive at all, including the innovation. And the DPDP Act is a work in progress. Without a default data localization, how do you protect India? People might say, oh, what is the point of a law if you cannot enforce it? But these are parallel processes. Because when you have a law, then there is an incentive for entrepreneurs to say, oh, okay, Indian equipment will be backed. There is going to be localization. People with money will invest in creating our own cloud facilities. These are all iterative processes which will happen gradually. You cannot say that we will create the whole thing and then enact the law, or you cannot complain that businessmen or entrepreneurs are not creating this, because people will look at what is in their advantage, and the state has a lot of things to do in those things.
Right, absolutely. No option but to develop our own operating systems, hardware, our software, and of course, push for data localization. That's the big lessons broadly from one of the most sensational leaks from the United States, the White House leaks of national security, where a journalist was added to a chat group created by some of the most powerful officials in the United States. Thank you very much for joining us, Colonel Pavitra.